you're trying to buy a cheap off-roader today, I'm going to show you one remnant of the past that I think we should definitely bring back. So, this is a steel wheel that usually has a hubcap over it, right? So we're just going to go over wheel types, right? Just generic, basic layman's terms, right? So this is your steel wheel, right? If on cheaper cars, you'll have the tire around it, and you'll have a hubcap, right? Now, unfortunately, this steel wheel by itself is really reliable. Like, there's nothing to break, nothing can come off, it won't chip, and if it does chip, just spray paint over it. It's made out of steel. It's not just going to chip, it has no clear coat, But these are often weakened by cheap hubcaps, like these, the Toyota Corolla hubcaps. They get rock chips in them, they crack because they're plastic, they fall off when you hit a bump. That just makes the steel wheels look a lot less appealing because while the wheel itself is very durable, the hubcap that makes it look all pretty, makes the wheel look nice on the car instead of just making your car look like one of those really old Civics, of which one's hubcaps we looked at before today. Also, oftentimes, the hubcaps are just tacky and cheap, like these ones from Amazon with the fake carbon fiber, and stolen from other vehicles that don't really match yours. So, all the usefulness of this is taken away because it's not necessarily, nice to look at, which, unfortunately, is what a lot of consumers actually care about today. Then you have the actual diamond cut machined wheels, like Volvo, right? Volvo is a luxury brand. I'll get to them later, China, blah, 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 bought out, Geely, They make a lot, and, Saab used to have great wheels. I really love Volvo wheels, too. They're personally my favorite wheels. I also really like Saab, but I'm not a three-spoke guy, right? So, these are machined because they have a little laser that sticks out and it goes bzzz, and it protrudes just enough to cut off and expose the bare metal. So they paint it all black, and then they have that little thing stick out just far enough to catch the top, whatever's sticking up, right? And then they can program that laser, and that's how they make these two-tone pretty wheels that you see, right? Like these. Oh, those are ugly. They look like hubcaps. Some Volvo wheels I really love, some are really ugly, right? And then you have just your standard Toyota Corolla, rims. So these are technically the same as diamond cut wheels. They're just not painted. So they're just the same color all the way through. They're just this generic shape. They have clear coats, which means they get rock chips, right? Rock chips, everything, blah, 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 right? So let's just talk about, really quickly, jump. And these two are going to combine together, right? I'm not going on a rant. We're just going to talk about SUV sizes and shapes in modern day terms, right? So the Land Cruiser is about the highest you can get. That's the nicest one you can buy, right? The Sequoia, right? And so let's talk about off-road capability, right? The Land Cruiser is perfect for off-road. It has all the hill climb, descent, everything you need. It has all the features you need. It's got amazing ground clearance, and it's durable enough to go off-road, although oftentimes it gets stuck, not because it doesn't have the ground clearance or anything, but because it's so big and so wide that it often bottoms out when off-roading. The Sequoia is lower to the ground than the Land Cruiser is, which means it's just tiny, slightly bit worse for off-roading. The 4Runner, right, so we're 3 classifications down now, is a very good car for off-roading because the ground clearance is so unbelievably high, it doesn't matter the size of the vehicle, right? The Grand Highlander Hybrid is a family car. It won't really go off-road, even though it does have decent ground clearance. Ground clearance varies between vehicle for vehicle, and they measure how much you need based on what you're going to be using it for. So the Toyota Land Cruiser's ground clearance is made for clearing rocks. The Toyota Grand Highlander hybrids, read the tag there, the Toyota Grand Highlanders, I'm forgetting the name, and I just said it like a million times, ground clearance is based off of clearing snow, right? And then you have your regular Highlander, like the family carrying vehicle. Then you have the RAV4 hybrid, right? The RAV4 is about as small as it gets, and the RAV4 has kind of piss-poor ground clearance. Not actually, but, it doesn't have the same ground clearance as the Land Cruiser. It can get you through the snow, but oftentimes these are one of your best options for off-roading. Why? Because it's almost a sedan's shape. It's so thin and so skinny with such good ground clearance that it's so small that it easily climbs its way over rocks with more efficiency, right? So, this is the base version of the brand new Toyota Camry. Notice the wheels that it has. It has plastic wheels. So it has steel wheels with plastic hubcaps on top of that, right? An interesting, plasticky, cheap interior. You'd expect that, manual. And then, right, you have your basic Honda CR-V. These are the 2 vehicles we're going to be covering today. And we can see it has these. It also has hubcaps, right? So these vehicles now come standard with hubcaps. Can you believe that? Like this SUV, the base version, has hubcaps. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is a far superior version to hubcaps that is also a steel wheel that we have had the technology for forever. And if I guarantee you, if Toyota and Honda and Subaru brought this back, their buyers would love it because it looks rugged while looking pretty. So remember the issues of that steel wheel we talked about before. It's ugly. It needs a hubcap. Without the hubcap, it's essentially nothing. I know. No, okay. Don't scream at me. I know how useful these can be, and I know how adaptive they are, and I know that they're very good, even though if they don't have hubcaps and beauteous and everything. I'm talking to the average consumer. I'm not talking about some efficient auto aficionado like myself, right? So, the hubcaps, it's essentially nothing. Well, can I tell you that years ago, in 2014, what are those? Like, actually, what are those? I don't remember seeing those. Huh. That's right, it's a steel wheel without a hubcap. But you may have seen one of these on the road before and not notice that they were steelies, right? Now, why wouldn't you notice that they were steel wheels? Because they're cut to look like normal wheels. They don't have any clear coat. They're just not painted black. They're painted silver, right? So you're more likely to confuse these cheaper steel wheels with the nicer alloy wheels, right? These ones. That's probably why you've never noticed it before. So, let's talk about the different classes, right? A lot of people go off-roading in something like an FJ Cruiser, which is kind of, like 4Runner territory. A lot of people go off-road in 4Runners. A lot of people go off-road in Land Cruisers and Tahoes and Terrains and crap like that, right? So, what if I'm here to tell you that this pretty much only applies to the small SUV segment? I know, that's right. Why would this have that, but these bigger ones not? For one simple reason. Cost. These wheels are real cheap to make. In fact, these wheels are actually, in a lot of times, cheaper to make than these. Why? They don't need to be spray painted. All they do, well, sometimes they're not. So essentially, these are actually cheaper to make than the other ones because you don't need to spray paint them. They're already silver. It's actual silver wheels. And you can fit the Honda logo in there, and make it look nice and pretty by just taking the center cap of what this is and then sticking the logo on it. Bing, bang, boom, you've got yourself a steel wheel. Now, this may not seem like a big difference to you. In fact, this may just seem like some crappy technology. But the important thing is you didn't notice it. That's right. They do this intentionally. They make it pretty enough as to where you will not notice it because you're often not looking at the wheels. But let me tell you, when you're off-roading and looking to buy a cheap off-roader, you always want to get these wheels. Why? Because the same reasons I mentioned before. They don't chip on rocks, which you're going to be climbing a lot of. Like the Corolla wheels. If you're driving on the freeway and you're driving behind a dumpster, your wheels will get rock chips in them and curb easily. That doesn't matter. These are steel wheels. Curb them as much as you want. I mean, it'll still look shiny, but it won't be as noticeable. Throw as many rocks on them as you want to. They're steel wheels. They're much better than alloys, and they don't have any stupid coating that's going to turn yellow or wear away or crack or, shatter. And you may think that Honda was a genius, right? Like Honda figured out perfectly. Ooh, lovely photo. Beautiful. Toledo Auto Group. Dang. So you can see it there. They out in the wild, they look normal. And when off-roading, they're extra good. Just because they're so unnoticeable with being so much more reliable than alloy wheels. Now, you may be thinking that the 2014 Honda CR-V is unique, right? This was a beautiful technology. Honda figured out how to execute it. Well done, Honda. I'm going to go buy a Honda CR-V. But what if I tell you that 4 years earlier, Toyota had it? That's right. You probably also didn't notice these because they're cut exactly in the same shape. But believe it or not, the Toyota RAV4, a very, very, very noticeable vehicle. Fun fact, actually, they brought these back for a foreign version of the RAV4. Awful hubcaps, just awful. They actually brought these wheels back. Well, I was talking about the hubcaps. They actually have these wheels now in foreign markets. These are also steel wheels, just with a little center hubcap in them. That's right. Toyota did it 4 years before Honda did it. Look at it. It's beautiful. Again, they're superior to alloy wheels because they don't crack, they don't chip, they don't turn yellow. They're steel wheels. anything that happens to steel happens to these. Let me tell you, not a lot of things. They age beautifully because they don't age at all. No varnishes, no coverings. There is only one material that goes into these wheels, and that is steel. That's it. How they make them? They just get like a sheet of steel, press it, bam, wheels. They're cheap to make, they're efficient. And also, a lot of reasons why car makers like Volvo do these wheels and why the Toyota Prius has hubcaps with these wheels underneath. If you don't know that, the Toyota Prius has hubcaps that go over the alloy wheels for gas mileage, right? It's so that, when you're driving, you get great gas mileage because, more aerodynamic, the air can pass through your wheels easily. You get, wow, I'm really trying to explain this. Great. You get, 0.4 more gas mileage because you do that, but hey, the Toyota Prius is an ultra-efficient vehicle. So you may think that these aren't used a lot because they're not efficient, when actually they're more efficient than a lot of alloys. That's right. Because they're not trying to look pretty, they don't need to stick out at all. That's right. These Toyota wheels, they jut out right here, like this little V shape. And when you're driving, that's just reducing gas mileage. These wheels, it's hard to, spoiled it. These wheels, it's almost entirely hard to see. They're actually recessed inside the wheel, so it's completely flat when going sideways. Now, you know what I mean? Like these wheels, like the innards, instead of jutting out like most wheels are, they're actually recessed in the wheel. And that's great when you're off-roading, because if you have a ton of rocks coming up directly like inches away from your wheels, you don't want to break anything. These wheels go in. They never stick out past the tire, which is, some wheels do that. And why they're so great and really efficient. And they just look amazing on this vehicle. Like, the car doesn't look ugly either. I would actually say this car with these 5-spoke steel wheels look a lot prettier than... I'm sorry, Toyota. It just doesn't look as cute. I mean, it's a nicer car, like we get it, V6, XLE. The base version just looks better. 5 spokes looks better. You know what I mean. Also, by the way, Toyota, if you have 5 spokes, make your wheels 5 spokes. If you have 5 lug nuts, it's either 5, 10, or 7 spokes. I'm making that a rule. That's a new national rule, right? So you may think that Toyota, again, just innovated this technology. We've had it for years. This is a 2003 Subaru Forester, and there are the wheels again. So obviously, these SUV companies and SUV makers know about this technology. In fact, Subaru, Toyota, and Honda have all used it before. So why is Toyota and Honda using hubcaps instead of the way more efficient steel wheel? In fact, you may think that steel wheels have gone away. Look at all the listings. All of these are steel wheels you probably didn't know those were steel wheels. Yep. So yeah, just look. I can buy all of these right now. This technology hasn't gone away. Not at all. They still make them. I can buy them right now for way more than I'd like to admit. In fact, a lot of off-road wheels are just steel wheels. Look at them. They're just steel because they're so efficient. And look, it barely sticks out past the tire. That's on purpose, because when off-roading, you don't want to scratch up your wheels. Like, we get it. Off-roading, when you're off-roading, not a whole lot matters, right? But you also don't want to damage anything. For me, off-roading, right, it doesn't really matter. If you buy a car that's good enough and that can handle it, and wheels that are good enough and can handle it, it doesn't really matter if you scratch them up. But it's still not good to scratch them up. It's like, if I have a fork and I have a perfectly good replacement fork in a package in my closet, that doesn't mean that I just want to destroy this fork because I have a replacement or the fork will withstand it. Still not good to damage anything, in my opinion. But, yeah. I mean, they've had this technology for years. Honda did it back in 2014 with their base model. Toyota did it since 1999 on the RAV4, and Subaru has been doing it since the Forester was a thing. And yet, all 3 of these companies, except for Subaru, which went straight for diamond cut wheels, which is stupid, all 3 of these companies only offer hubcaps on the base models. So, let's have a little checklist. These wheels are more efficient than hubcaps. Check. These wheels are more durable than hubcaps. Check. These wheels are cheaper than making hubcaps. Check. These wheels are more efficient than making, diamond cut wheels or alloy wheels. Check. So why did Toyota and Honda go with the much more inferior, in my opinion, and objectively inferior hubcap design for their cars? Is it because of style? You know, is it just because, I mean, these wheels don't fit in anymore? They're not stylish anymore? Well, I think it's hard to argue that these are stylish with this car. I mean, trust me, they don't look ugly, but they sure don't look amazing. Neither does the Honda, you know? They still don't match the car very well or look very good, and they just look out of place, because this is nice, shiny, and silver, and these are that unpainted, silvery, ugly plastic. They clash. These two colors clash. Also, why does the base model have chrome and wheel covers? It makes no sense. Wouldn't you take the money from chroming the plastic and put that into the wheels? You know, the part that actually, you know, moves the car, instead of just making it look nice and not affecting anything at all. Like, if this was black plastic, no one would complain. In fact, I wouldn't be complaining right now. I would actually be much more happy with you, Honda. Stop making stupid decisions. So, we've already established that these wheels are objectively better in almost every single scenario to any other type of wheel. So, why has Toyota and Honda gone with hubcaps? Now, you may say it's because they're cheap. Actually, they're less expensive to do these. You don't need to make a hubcap, and you don't need to paint them. So why is Toyota and Honda, I know I've been tap dancing around this. This is like the only point of the video. Cool down, right? So why have Honda and Toyota been using these much more inferior wheels than using the technology that they've already discovered? Because of enshitterment. That's right. Every single car company now, even Toyota, is doing this on purpose. They even have a new CEO now that wasn't even in the family and eventually got fired by the board. That's an entire different can of worms. I'll talk about that later. Yeah, because all car makers are being not just cheap, they're doing this on purpose. Honda knows that these wheel covers are going to fall apart. Honda knows that these wheel covers are going to fall off. Honda knows that the steel wheels will remain untouched for centuries if you take care of them. So why would they go with the hubcap? Because every time it falls off, you buy another one from them. That's right. Every single time you curb your hubcap, guess I got to replace it. You want nicer wheels than these, which look deliberately shitty? Fine. Buy more of our wheels for $300 a pop. They're doing this on purpose. Toyota intentionally put hubcaps on their wheels, not because, you know, the other ones didn't look stylish enough, or because they wanted to add some style with these ugly hubcaps, but because they knew they would break. They know that when you curb them, they're going to crack. They know that when you hit a bump, they're going to fall off, and no one wants that AutoZone cheap-looking hubcap, so of course they're going to go to Toyota and buy the Toyota ones. This is just one step of how car companies are cheaping out on daily things. Just every day. We have better technology, and this shows the extent that these car companies are willing to go to screw you over. I did the research. It is actually cheaper to make the other type of wheel. So it's not because it's cheaper for them to do hubcaps and steel wheels. Not at all. No. It's because it's more expensive for you to buy new hubcaps every 20 minutes when these just pop off, fall off, they get dirty, they turn orange, and they're made poorly. And the worst part about that is, like how I said the other ones are cheaper, you think the car companies are willing to spend more money on these, right? Spend more money on the hubcap, spend more money on the steel wheels, just to, you know, get you to buy more stuff? Number one, they're evil. Well, they're not evil. I'm making a joke. You understand what I mean. What I mean by evil is they do not have the consumer's desires in mind. They are doing it purely for their own benefit. And harming instead of, like, when a car company does something like a fake vent, right, that doesn't harm the consumer, right, but, you know, it's good for the company because the car looks more stylish and it sells better, right? Doing these wheels rather than the more effective, prettier, in my opinion, steel wheels is not just more expensive for them and bad for them, it's also bad for the consumer. So how are they able to spend more money on the base trim? First of all, the base trim has changed a lot over the years. I mean, this is a brand new Toyota RAV4. Almost entirely digital gauge cluster. Almost entirely digital climate controls. An entire screen. Meanwhile, let's look at the 2010 one. Even the XLE V6, which is notoriously the nicest model you can buy from Toyota back then, came with a radio and single-zone climate controls. Maybe if you were lucky, you could get the dual zone, and if you paid an extra $1,000, you could get navigation. That was it. No digital gauge cluster, no nothing. And this wasn't the base model. This was the nicest one that you could buy. The Toyota RAV4 Limited V6 all-wheel drive didn't come standard with a screen. It didn't. You would end up getting something like this, except imagine there was a radio there. So you get your radio, and then your dual zone climate control. That's all you get, right? Because the car world is chasing its tail so much, saying, oh, we got to put tech in the base model. We got to make the base model great. Why is there such a rush to make the base model such a good model when all the other models are more suited for people? Because people can't afford the nicer models. The base model is the only model that sells. And people won't buy the base model unless it has the tech that they want. The car makers brought this on themselves. That's right, by jacking up prices and making it so the only trim level the consumer can afford is the cheapest one, they've intentionally brought themselves in an endless position of making the base level cheaper and cheaper with nicer and nicer tech. And do you think that Toyota and Honda, right, put screens in their cars, and just ate the expense? No, they took it out of other areas of your car. They took out They took it out of the engine, the lasting proof of the engine. They took it out of the life proofing of the engine. They took it out of the transmission. They took it out of what actually matters. They give you stuff that you probably don't even care about. If there was just a radio in my car, I wouldn't care. I'd actually prefer that to having a big, gigantic touchscreen. If my car didn't have a fully digital gauge cluster, I wouldn't care about that. I would much rather have a sounder, smoother sounding engine and much better transmission than having a screen in my car. Then that's what Toyota and Honda are doing. I guarantee you that these steel wheels with hubcaps are cheaper than this design. Now, you may say, well, how can that be? You just spent all this time talking about how these are cheaper, and now you just flipped it on yourself like, what are you? Because they've cut so many corners. I bet the clips, let's take a 2010 Toyota Corolla hubcaps, let's count the number of clips holding it onto the wheel, probably like 15. There's probably only like 7 clips holding this on. They make it cheaper. They find a way to do it. They make the sheet metal thinner. They make the hubcaps thinner. They make the hubcaps less glossy. They make the hubcaps not stick on as much. So to the average consumer, it looks like, oh, the base model has everything that I need, when actually they're taking it out of the important parts of the car. This is true for every single car company, not just Toyota and Honda. In fact, they're one of the least offensive car companies doing it. Look at GM. Almost every single car they've made right now has to be a parts car because they don't have the funds to keep making these cars that buyers want. Right? If they just made the cars a little bit cheaper, the world would spin a little bit better, and I would sleep a little bit better at night, knowing that I could afford a brand new car. Because making the base model, doing all this has made the base model up to $28,000. $28,000. The base price in 2010, 14 years ago, was $21,000. That's right. $23,000 was the Sport. The Limited V6 was $27,000. $27,000 was the nicest you could get. The Limited V6 four-wheel drive, the absolute nicest one you could get, is yet less expensive than the cheapest model of the new car. And yes, it's because of inflation and external forces like that, but it's also because of the car companies. We can't just say, oh, well, inflation's going up, which means they've done nothing wrong. Yes, they have. They have intentionally brought this on themselves. There is almost a $7,000 difference between the cheapest model and the cheapest model in 2010. And yet the cheapest model in 2010 is running in 2024. I don't think this car will be running in 2038. I think it'll be in a landfill somewhere. They don't make them like they used to. Now, I'm not saying that you should hold on to your RAV4, your 2010 RAV4 Sport forever, because guess what? No matter what you do, these older, more used cars are going to be used up. They may last, let's say this car lasts for 20 years. It was built in the year 1990 and it lasts for 20 years. That's its lifespan. That's how long it's going to last. And this new car only lasts for 10 years, right? Well, this car was made in 1990. By 2010, this car will be all used up. It'll turn into a shitbox. By the time that we finally realized that these cars are not what we should be buying and we should be buying older used cars to show the car companies we will not tolerate this, all the older good models are already all used up. That's right. Try and find a low mileage RAV4 price from 2010. Try. They're all high. They are. The mileage is all high just because they worked so well, so people used them. I mean, that's how it works. So with that, thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And, I mean, it's just sad. This is what the car market is turning in today. Car companies undercutting each other, not for the consumer, but for their own personal satisfaction. Thank you for watching, I guess. We're ending on a real solemn note here.